Did you see my recent video in which I looked at this refurb project where I told you that, being quite honest, I didn't know what was wrong with the property? The thumbnail had the title, "Would you refurb this property?" If you haven't seen it, then do please check it out because I think you'll find it interesting. But for those of you who did see the video, I want to tell you what was wrong with the property, because a lot of people have been leaving me messages and suggesting things like there's a drainage problem, which is actually a very good guess, and also suggesting ways in which I can find out what the problem is and who to talk to. I was teasing a little bit because I do know what the problem is, and when I tell you, I think you're going to be very surprised. And it's one of those things which you really just can't account for. You can do all the studying you like, and you can look at the way that properties are constructed and look at different construction types, and you can think about different defects, but every so often something will come along which will just blindside you. You just would never have realised that it was that unless you'd found out in other ways. So how did I find out what was actually wrong with the property? Well, this might sound very obvious to a lot of us, but I asked the estate agent while I was doing the viewing. Now, the reason why I want to sort of highlight that this is a legitimate thing to do is because I know that many of us would think, well, okay, that's obvious. I always talk to the estate agent when I go around. But there's also a large number of people who I know don't talk to the estate agent when they're doing viewings. They're a little bit scared, particularly if they're starting out. If they start engaging the estate agent in conversation, they may be worried that the estate agent's going to realise that they're not really a successful and experienced investor and all of this kind of stuff. But to be honest, I don't think there's any harm in chatting to people and just asking questions. I'm a bit chatty anyway, so I wouldn't just walk around a property in silence with an estate agent. I'd be talking to them about all kinds of stuff. On this particular occasion though, I did say to the estate agent, what's wrong with the property? Do you know what this crack is all about? Because if you remember the video, there's this large crack down the corner of the front elevation. And the estate agent was completely open about it. Now, the thing is, I thought it was worth asking anyway, because the chances are that the property may have been sold. It may have been under offer in the past. And it may be that somebody's pulled out. It may be that somebody was going to buy the property and had a survey. So there's no harm in asking the estate agent. Sometimes you'll be shown around by a viewer who is somebody who literally just grabs the keys in the offices and they go off and they do the appointments, and they may not know. But in this particular instance, I was with one of the actual estate agents from the office who knew the history of the property, and she was able to tell me. This is what was wrong with the property. The crack on the front elevation near the corner was caused when the vendor backed his truck into the house. Now, it must have been quite a thump, because if you remember the video, there was a crack around the side which we could see going into the foundations, and there must be quite a crack in the actual external skin of the wall, because there appears to be damp in the hall which is coming through, probably coming through that crack, maybe rain penetrating through the crack, or it may be that the thump when the truck hit the wall broke the damp proof course, which means that damp's coming up through a broken damp proof course. That's another possibility. But the one thing which I would never have anticipated was that somebody's reversed into the house. But now when she said it, it just seems so obvious. Yes, of course, because it was one of those inexplicable cracks. So the moral of the story is, no matter how hard you train, you're not always going to know the answers. And in fact, anybody who tells you that they know everything, you just keep clear, because nobody knows everything. We're all learning all the time. And the other moral of the story is there's no harm in asking. As I always say, if you don't ask, you don't get. So anyway, I just thought you'd find that interesting. It wasn't a structural defect as such. It was careless driving on the part of the vendor. Now, whether they're ever going to be able to sell that property or not, I do not know. By the way, for anybody who might know what that construction type is, because I've done a lot of Googling trying to work out what it is, and I still can't get a satisfactory answer. It's a property in Bilborough in Nottingham. There's an estate of very similar properties, so if anybody's ever come across that construction, to me it looks like it's non-conventional construction. If you think it is conventional and I'm wrong, then please tell me. You know, I'm quite prepared to say I don't know. If it's some kind of strange non-conventional type of construction, though, I'd be really interested to know what it's called. Just out of curiosity, because I've just been wondering and it's going around in my head. So there we are. And if you come over to my website, www.thepropertyteacher.co.uk, and click on Learning with Peter, you'll find a link for the Successful Property Renovators Workshop. in which I'll take you through exactly how to renovate a property and guarantee yourself a profit every time. In my time as a property investor, I've renovated well over 100 properties, and I've seen pretty much all there is to be seen as to how to do a property renovation effectively and efficiently to make sure that it's done on time, on budget, and in the right way to help you to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. Because in my experience, there's two main reasons why we want to renovate a property. The first is where we buy a property that perhaps needs some work doing to it, renovate it, and then sell it on at a profit, what we could call a flip. Or secondly, and this is the process which I mainly use renovations for, is to buy a property which needs some work doing to it, do the refurb, and then refinance the property at a higher value, and then keep that property in my portfolio. And by refinancing at a higher value, I'm often able to get back most, if not all, of the money that I've put into the deal, including the purchase price and the renovation costs, simply through remortgaging. So if that sounds interesting to you, and if you'd like to know more about how to renovate and refurbish properties for profit, then please come over to my website www.thepropertyteacher.co.uk, click on Learning with Peter, and click on the link for the Successful Property Renovators Workshop, and I look forward to sending you your links to be able to download your copy immediately. And by the way, I'll also send you some free special bonuses, including a discussion on an audio file with my mortgage broker as to the best ways to finance refurbishment projects and how to raise the finance. So if that sounds good to you, please come over to my website www.thepropertyteacher.co.uk and order your copy now.